Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's special meeting of the Council of the Township of North Dundas. Today being September 26, 2024. Moved by Councillor Uhrig, second by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, that the special meeting of the Council of the Corporation of the Township of North Dundas to consider a complaint regarding the application of development charges bylaw number 2022-35 be hereby called to order at 4:30 p.m. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Moved by Deputy Mayor Bergeron, second by Councillor Uhrig, that the agenda be approved as presented. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Seeing none. We will now move into the topic, the development charges complaint, and it's Edwin and Francine Duncan and Mr. Pohl. Oh, I'm sorry. Edwin and Francine. Are you both here?
I'm here.
Yeah.
Stand or sit or what?
No, sit down. Just make sure the mic is on, please. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Great, well, we were just, I don't remember the numbers off the topic here, but we were charged, we thought we were overcharged for what we're doing with the development charges. Development charges on the renovating our property in the corner of highway, a corner of 16 and County Road 3. So I didn't bring my glasses with me, but anyhow. Yes, our complaint was about what we were charged for development charge. We thought we were overcharged, so we took it back to Kelvin, and I guess we're awaiting our answer on that.
Right.
So, yeah.
And we've been presented with that information, and I'm trying to gather through. Oh, I have to get the other agenda up. Excuse me.
I apologize myself.
No,
I wasn't
no,
sure.
it's my fault. My fault. I have the wrong agenda up. I thought I'd be able to follow it.
Okay, I see the building invoice here was for $9,319.
Because you can't see it.
Okay, thank you. That's better. Yeah, we were, when we charged $9,319.40 with a non-residential credit of $2,310, left at $7,009.40. So being that we were turned it into an apartment, we thought those development charges were too high, so that's what we're here for.
Right.
Okay.
Right, I appreciate that. Okay, and I think, was there anything else you'd like to present?
Not at this time, no.
Not at this time?
I guess not, no.
Okay, that, questions, comments from members of council? Deputy Mayor?
I think the issue is the township doesn't have enough divisions between what is a house, a single unit, and an apartment, and so that's what we have to discuss among ourselves, is what we're going to do about this, because it could be a single dwelling, but it's now an apartment that's been put in a commercial building, but it's just one bedroom. And I think in the past there were separations between the size of a building and the square footage where the development charges were. And so that's the issue, whether we decide if it's an apartment or whether it's one residential unit.
Okay.
That's the situation right now.
Yeah, the other rest of it will be used for personal storage here anyway, so not as residence, but the rest of it personal storage. So,
Thank you. For any further
yeah, myself, yeah.
questions, comments? Any further questions, comments? Councillor Lennox?
Yeah, I'm going to echo Deputy Mayor here where, yeah, this is unfortunately a loophole. 7,000 for development charges for 800 square feet, I think it says. I can't really
Yes,
see
I
it
think it's
from
around
here.
that, yep.
I don't mind jumping straight in potential motions so Mr. Duncan can be on his way and we, oh, never mind. I'm getting the, okay. I will cut myself off.
Yes, there is a process. Any other further questions, comment, unless you have something other? No? Anything else? Okay, at this time, Mr. Duncan, the questions and comments have been delivered by members of council. I think we have to move to the next step, which is following this step, and then that's when I call upon Calvin and Mr. Pohl to talk to the action request.
Okay. Want me to sit down over there?
Would you like to sit beside him, or you can sit in the back?
Oh,
Wherever-
okay,
So you're right back, right next to your buddy, or whatever. It's up to you.
So thank you, Mayor Fraser. I've put together a report for council with regard to this application or a complaint that was filed to council. Under the Development Charges Act, there is a procedure to follow with regard to complaints. They have to comply with Section 20 of the Development Charges Act, which qualifies what qualifies as a complaint. And there's 3 sections there that apply. Now, council has received the complaint. Council may dismiss the complaint, rectify any incorrect determination or error that was the subject of the complaint. And I'll quickly go through the details with you if you can scroll to the next page there. This is the subject building in question. It was a former commercial business that was run out of there with the 6 garages. There's one on the side, as you can see in the slide below. They decided to convert part of the office space and a little bit of the garage space into a 1-bedroom apartment. The rest remains as garages for their personal storage. So when the building permit was received, you can see the next slide here, you can see the portion of the building that was converted into a 1-bedroom apartment. There's a living room in the back area and a bathroom in the middle, and the office was converted into a bedroom. So as you can see, there's 6 bay garages attached with this. It was separated with a type of firewall in between the different uses in this building. So that was the application. We looked at development charges through the Development Charges Act and our Development Charges Bylaw, what we have. Based on the current definitions in the bylaw, this would qualify, even though it's an apartment, it qualifies essentially under what we have for current definitions as a residential detached dwelling, which means a residential building consisting of only 1 dwelling unit. So that was the determination by the building official. This is now being converted into a single-family dwelling with many, many garages. Therefore, the full application of development charges should be paid, minus you get a credit for the conversion of the commercial space. Because it was a commercial building that existed, they've paid development charges on that commercial building, they get a credit for that against the residential use that was being proposed. Commercial charges are much less than residential charges because they use more of the municipal services typically than a commercial business does. So there's the difference and why there's an application there that they owed money rather than just calling it even. The other part of it was the definition of apartment. When we look at the definition of apartment in the bylaw, it talks about 3 or more dwelling units, that it's a combined building with many units when you're looking at a building. This bylaw was drafted by a new consultant, so it was different than what we've had for the last number of years. The definitions they used were slightly different than we had before, so this definition for apartment is a true apartment. It doesn't consider apartments in houses in that sense, or an apartment in a commercial building, or an apartment in a industrial kind of building where you might have somebody living in the industrial building, and then have an apartment. None of that's considered. That would basically be a single-family dwelling, which creates problems in that sense. So we looked through the bylaw, and that was the determination that the only thing it falls under right now is a single-family dwelling, even though it isn't a 1-bedroom apartment. I also go back to the intent of the legislation, just not the bylaw itself, when council can consider this. The legislation is geared towards making sure you pay your share of what growth-related costs you actually use, depending on the type of unit. So you can see in the next slide, if you can carry to the next one, the division of our current division only has 6 categories right now, broken down. We used to have about 8 to 9 categories in the old bylaw. The new bylaw only has it 6. But the basis of the charge is based on persons per unit for that type of building. And this is taken from the actual study as the average number of persons per unit, and that's multiplied by the development charge rate. So by a 1 person would be the rate, and then it's multiplied by 2.5 6.9 for a single dwelling, and for an apartment, it's only a 1.14 persons per unit times the rate, which gives you the development charge, which is broken down in the category or the box above. So that's where you end up with the two different charges that get applied. So if you can flip the next one, thank you. So the next one, you'll see that what the existing building area was, the square footage of the living area is only 800 square feet, as was pointed out earlier, which only occupies 17.7% of the building. It's not a real single-family dwelling in the same sense of what you typically would see in this particular case. Is what their argument is you have a lot of garage space, but not a lot of dwelling space. So essentially, I've laid out the three different scenarios. The first scenario is what the development charge was charged, based on the development charge minus the credit for the conversion from commercial to residential, which is the charge that's applied at $7,039.40. Mr. Duncan is arguing that he should get the apartment charge as a one-bedroom apartment, which is the $3,955 minus the credit for the conversion, and resulting in a charge of only $1,645. So part of the discussion, we looked at what's the fairness in the legislation and the bylaw. Is the intent to charge what persons per unit is actually being charged, and only giving a credit for the actual living space that changed over to residential from commercial, the office being converted, plus part of the back area, which would only give a credit of $528 for a resulting charge of $3,427.05. That's another scenario that council can consider if they feel that's a fair charge based on the legislation and the bylaw, combining those two to be a kind of a fair charge that meets both expectations. So those are the options for council to consider.
Right, thank you, thank you for that presentation, Mr. Pohl. At this point, I'll ask council for questions, comments. Councilor Yurek. Okay, I have four motions in front of me, so bear with me. Pardon? Yes, of course. Thank you. So we have the potential motions in front of us, in front of council, in front of the public. Do I have a mover on potential motion number one? I'll ask twice. Do I have a mover on potential motion number one? Do I have a mover on potential motion number one? Seeing none. Fair? Do I have a mover on potential motion number two? Do I have a mover on potential motion number two? Do I have a mover on potential motion number two? Seeing none. Do I have a mover on potential motion number three? Councilor Ig. And do I have a seconder? Councilor Lennox. Moved by Councilor Ig, seconded by Councilor Lennox, that council has heard the complaint from Edwin and Francine Duncan regarding development charges for change of use permit number 2024-006, and hereby imposes a total development charge of $1,645.05 in accordance with Section 26 of the Development Charges Act. But I do like to ask a question about what is the next step, and this seems odd that we're in this process. So questions, comments, and I guess the mover and seconder are quite comfortable with that. But I do have a question. How does this affect our bylaw, and what is there any changes we need to entertain now because of recognizing this small home, or tiny home, in essence, with a large garage, as an apartment? It does seem unusual that we don't have a slot for that. I'm sorry, it does not seem unusual that we don't have a slot. The request is unusual. But do we need to manage our bylaw?
Yeah, I would suggest that it might be something we look at. We are looking at adding some fire services to the bylaw itself, so at that time might be a good time to look at the definitions a little more closely to determine, does it include tiny homes, and should we be taking into consideration apartments in certain buildings such as this? This is an unusual circumstance where you see a commercial building being converted into an apartment. It's not an average thing. It's the first time I've seen this kind of thing in 25 years, 26 years. So it's like, how often does that come up? But it might be worthwhile to look at it going forward with tiny homes and things like that, where your size and number of bedrooms is more applicable than maybe the type of unit that it is.
But we're not concerned with the bylaw at this time, or concerned with amending the bylaw before this is passed.
It would make no difference if council was to amend the bylaw. This is a matter before council on its own merits.
Thank you. Okay, further questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Thank you, Mr. Pohl. Seeing as we've completed that task, it's moved by Councillor Annable, second by Councillor Lennox, that bylaw number 2024-59 to adopt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt with by resolution be read and passed in open council, signed and sealed this 26th day of September 2024. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Moved by Councillor Lennox, seconded by Councillor Annable, that the special meeting be adjourned at 4:46 p.m. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and those online for being with us as we went through that special meeting. Madam Clerk, do we need to wait till 5 p.m. or do we just roll on? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to need to take a 5-minute break at a minimum so we can get the AV sorted out. Thank you.